Hey, it's Freiburger here on Roadkill Extra at National Trail Raceway on the set of the episode where we are building this turd right here, which is our 70 Dodge Challenger. Now, a lot of times when you're watching an episode of Roadkill and seeing us build a project car, even though we're thrashing on it, you might not get an opportunity to really look deep at all the things you might want to know about it. So I thought I'd walk around, give you some background on the car, show you some tech details on it, things like that. This is a 1970 Dodge Challenger, which is really a desirable body style, probably second only to the 70 to 74 Cuda in the world of Mopars. This is on the same platform as a Cuda. It is an E-body that they ran from 1970 to 1974. And this one looks remarkably like a Camaro with these headlights that we've put on it. Normally this car would have 4 smaller headlights, but with the 2 like this and when the hood's on it and everything, this thing looks a lot like a 69 Camaro. And in truth, I kind of think that's what Dodge was going for when they launched these cars. Now, the engine in our particular car is a 318 cubic inch small block Chrysler. This is what they called an LA series engine, which meant a light A motor. The A motor was the earlier polyspheric headed 318 that you'll see in a lot of cars. I don't know why they really called it even similar to the same engine family, because it's radically different than the poly motor. The LA series small block Chrysler, they started them in 1964 and they ran until 1991, I think, in trucks. And then they're very similar to the Magnum engines that ran through 2003. They would have been available in 64. They launched as a 273. Then they had the 318, the 340, and the 360. And guys will commonly put a 4-inch stroke crank in the 4-inch bore 360 block and make like a 408 or a 410 out of them. So this thing is pretty much bone stock. We're throwing a cam in it right now, and we're gonna have that tunnel ram on it just because that's kind of what we do. This is a good, reliable little engine. I've seen 318s built up to like a 400 horsepower level. Beyond that, you should probably give up and just get an actual motor like a 340 or a 360. This thing has a 904 TorqueFlite in it, which is the smaller version of the TorqueFlite automatic transmission, and the rear end is an 8 3/4. Which in the first episode we did with this thing, you saw the rear end blow up because it had no oil in it at all. And I think we put a 276 rear end gear in it. And today we bought a 430 that we're gonna throw in the thing so that it accelerates better. This particular car was not an RT, which was the performance version, or a TA or anything special like that. So it's got the small drum brakes all the way around. Now this thing was a dirt track car, and that's why it's so bashed. But if you look at it carefully, it's really not that rusty. This fender is pretty much garbage. But if you move around here and have a look inside, you'll see that the floorboards in it are actually really solid. It's a shame this thing got turned into a dirt track car, because this would have been a good hot rod for somebody. It's also kind of cool to me that it has a column shift. A lot of these E-bodies had the slapstick on the floor with a console. The slapstick actually was a factory ratchet shifter for an automatic transmission, which is kind of a neat feature for them. But everything's still in this thing. It doesn't have any of the window mechanisms, but even though it's a dirt track car, they welded the doors but left the inner skins in it. If this was a Hemi car or a TA or something like that, somebody would restore it. But you can see that they did cut the top off of it to install the water pipe roll cage that we hacked out earlier, and unfortunately they boogered that back together. The wheels and tires on it, pretty typical that you can fit on one of these E-bodies. It's a 275/60/15 in the back. We have a 235/60/15 in the front, and we got 15x8s with 4.5-inch back spacing on both ends. This is the awesome trailer light job. Look at the zip tie expertise at holding our tow lights as actual turn signals and brake lights. Under here, you're looking at the 8 3/4 rear end, which is what they call a Hotchkiss type rear end. It's got the center section that drops out of the front that carries the ring and pinion gear, just like a Ford 9-inch. And it's kind of cooler looking than a Ford 9-inch too, because that rear end is perfectly round. And this quarter panel probably also needs some help. So while I kind of like this Challenger, and while it's, you know, too good to have been cut up, I don't think it'll ever be anything but what it is now, which is a really, really good beater. Maybe someday we'll put an actual windshield in it instead of this piece of Lexan. But this thing probably needs to get more of that sort of general mayhem vibe. Right now, I don't know. It doesn't have the look. It's not quite as cool as it needs to be, but we're gonna work on that right now. I think we need to probably put a grill in it and work on the stance and get rid of the truck wheels. I don't know. You never know what's going to happen to a Roadkill project vehicle. But after this particular episode we're shooting today, it's probably going to sit around for quite a long time. But who knows? You might see the thing again. So that's a wrap up on another quick overview of a Roadkill project vehicle on Roadkill Extra. Here's what you missed last week on Roadkill Extra, exclusively on Motor Trend On Demand. This is a '69 Plymouth. It smells exactly like every old Mopar I've ever owned.
I bought this car at 16 years old, high school kid. 440 Magnum, 727 auto. Opening up the pinch as much as you can is always going to give you more flow in my experience.
If you need more Roadkill Extra, go sign up for the 30-day free trial right now.